Our world is facing many crises. Inequality is rising, wages are falling, poverty is increasing, and our environment is facing collapse. Despite record profits on a global scale, many people still struggle to survive, let alone thrive. Workers worldwide are seeing their wages lose value, not just because of inflation, but due to decades of attacks on the right to organise and act collectively. Wealth has been transferred from the public sphere into private hands. Trade unions have been weakened. Economic recessions have led to austerity measures, stripping away the safety nets people rely on. Healthcare, education and essential services are being privatised, prioritising profit over people. Our shared resources, managed by and for communities, are under threat. Continuous economic growth benefits a few, but fails to improve well-being or quality of life for most, and it harms our planet.
Capitalism is a current social economic order that depends upon infinite growth, GDP, gross domestic product. On average, just for structural reasons, a capitalist economy has to grow by about 3% every year. Now what that means is after 20 years, the economy has doubled. And that means double the amount of resources, the pollution, and so on. And my concern in terms of green political economy is not just because of the injustices in terms of class exploitation that this economy creates, but also it's incompatible with a finite planet. To put it very simply, the last time I looked, the Earth wasn't growing. No, it's a fixed finite planet in terms of the resources. Even the regenerative resources that we have are fixed. They can't grow indefinitely. So the capitalist economy is a subsystem of that larger non-growing system. So it's like a balloon in a box. At some point it has to burst.
The economy has created this kind of fantastic subject of the consumer. And being a consumer has become so central in our economy. A new aspect of being human and consume and producing and also be part of a society, it's only one thing, and we needed to nurture that. So cooperative offer the advantage of escaping from that kind of individualistic approach, and also the advantage of being part of a collective that has an enormous health benefit. You are not alone, and you are in solidarity with others.
Well, co-ops are orientated by a different logic. Because they're democratized, and also because they are more socially aware, and that they aren't orientated only towards profit. Because it's really important for people to understand, purely functionally, legally speaking, if you're a corporate executive officer, you have to grow your company. You've got to deliver for your shareholders. You have a legal obligation called a fiduciary duty. You are legally bound to grow the company even though you may know this is unecological. It's going to cause irreparable damage to human beings. All of that is removed for cooperatives. They operate under a different logic, which is more around providing value for their members, being concerned about the impacts of their activities on the local and other communities.
They also have strategies for sustaining employment. So for example, we've seen during economic downturns where cooperatives kind of pull together, keep everybody employed, even if that means a kind of 80% wage for all of the workers. So it's very much a kind of redistributive practice. And I think it's a huge challenge to the way we consider the economy, because it's about putting democracy back into the economy. At present, a lot of the decisions that will impact our day-to-day life, whether it's the prices in the shop that we go and buy our food in, the food production process as well, the kind of energy that we invest in, that we consume, who is going to take care of our older parents or our children. All of these are excluded from our collective oversight. So we talk about democracy, but we don't have democracy in workplaces. We don't have democracies in markets. We don't have democracies over all of those kind of decisions. And cooperatives are about putting democracy back and solidarity back into our social relationship with one another.
Many important decisions about our lives, from the food we eat to the energy we use, are made without our input. Many aspects of our lives are simply undemocratic, but there is a more cooperative way to run our economies. Cooperatives promote economic democracy by putting solidarity at the centre of economic relations. They offer a more ethical, democratic and sustainable way of living, consuming and producing. Cooperatives are owned and controlled by their members, workers, consumers, service users or producers. They follow principles of self-help, democracy, equality, equity and solidarity. This means they prioritise mutual aid over competition or profit, fostering a vibrant local economy where the community benefits.
10 years ago, we were at the beginning of an emerging cooperative sector. There was quite a lot of enthusiasm about the cooperative form and kind of a revisioning or reviewing of the cooperative structure in new sector in Northern Ireland. And in Northern Ireland we had agri-coops, credit unions, the retail co-op shops. So those were the big cooperatives, but there were very little development from the grassroots, or there was very little emerging cooperative sector. So our job was to really introduce that form as a possibility. Not the big cooperative shop, but the smaller retail shop. So most recently, we have seen community co-ops spring up in little town like Carryforgers. So we have now a cooperative-owned greengrocer in the middle of Carryforgers. Even in sports, we could see how a member-owned organization could have benefits and also could have re-engage people to really manage and take decision about their own local football club. And we've done that with the Malina Cash. That is one of the most successful examples of a cooperative that is members-owned, really.
So Harderish is a small cooperative which produces perfumes and body oils, which are all natural. It also produces candles, feminist candles. It really came together when a small sort of group of us started producing our own individual items, and we decided to sort of come together to work on Harderish and develop kind of a range of goods. A cooperative, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not something which is known about. It's not really a business practice which is established in Northern Ireland. And I think it was really important that we established it as an alternative to the current models of business practice. We are a small organisation that produce a small amount of goods, but I think collectivism was really important because it was about collective decision making. It wasn't about individualism. It wasn't about profit.
So when we started the Belfast Cleaning Cooperative, we had made sure that it was a real living wage. Number one, that it was above the minimum wage and what the wage of most cleaners were getting. Because when we sat down with the workers and the women who were doing the training, they were telling us they were on 0-hour contracts, seen as a menial job, as you know, and being paid £5 or less per hour, which wasn't even the minimum wage at the time. So we thought that's not going to be within our ethos. Our ethos is that if you're going to work, you're going to come home, that you're able to feed your kids and heat your home and pay your bills, and not scrimp and scrape. You know, if you're a working person, you should be able to go home and pay everything that your outgoings are. First time we won the Real Living Wage Award was 2016 for all of Northern Ireland, and in 2022 we won the Key Worker Award for working all during the 3 years of all the lockdowns and 2 years of COVID. And in 2023 we won Cooperative of the Year for all of Northern Ireland. When it's your own business, you'll push that wee bit harder. If you work for an ordinary company and you do your 9 to 5 or whatever it is and you clock off on a Friday, you say bye-bye to that. That's you. I'll see you Monday. That's me. When you become a member of the Cleaning Co-op, it's a 7-day-a-week thing. It's a commitment that every member has embedded in them because they want to make it work. Any problems, you just come together collectively and get a solution. You don't put more problems in the middle. And that's what it is with the Cleaning Co-op. There's a collective of us who take responsibility, and there's a collective of us that actually relish in the fruits of our labour at the end of it, you know.
Capitalism extracts not just wealth, but also natural resources. Policies to tackle the climate crisis are often too timid, despite the high cost of disaster recovery compared to prevention. Building climate resilience requires more than planting trees and retrofitting houses. It needs inclusivity, decent jobs, and tackling social inequalities, with community participation at the core. Cooperatives can help transform our economies, especially in rural areas where they lead sustainable development. Agricultural cooperatives can play a crucial role in promoting environmental stewardship and supporting local communities.
So the farm is based in Larne, and we're Northern Ireland's first community-owned farm. It started up really on the ethos of creation care and to introduce community farming and community-supported agriculture. So creation care is based on really giving the opportunity for the environment protection to flourish, everything that God has created. So we really instill that in the farm and what we offer. It started up sort of a small holding growing vegetables, and that grew interest across the community, preparing then to launch the share offer. So the emphasis around creation care was to bring in the community to work with farming and conservation in partnership, that everything could flourish, from the soil, biodiversity, to the animals we grow, and then of course the people. The farm is very busy and it's best described in the week, I guess. So today we have a watercolour workshop on, and that really connects us with an audience that maybe traditionally would never have been at a farm before, and they get inspiration about what's going on in the farm, the animals, the biodiversity. So today they're painting lambs that were born last week, for example. The rest of the week, Tuesday is open volunteering. Wednesday and Thursday is our social farming days. So we're one of 18 farms across Northern Ireland that deliver that to support sort of inclusivity and development of two different groups of adults with additional needs.
You are offering a place where people is overcoming their own isolation. Those are very big issues after COVID. In particular, in the community farming project, we saw that a lot of community members start to engage in agriculture, in growing things, because they were tired of being alone. They were kind of wanted to do something collectively, and the land offered them the opportunity.
We have people from every section of community. We have people from across the globe. We have men and women, every sexuality, every nationality, every religious background. There's no discrimination against anyone. See, as long as you get the co-op ethos, you understand your responsibilities as a member, and you know the 7 principles of cooperation, and you're eager to learn more and become more involved, that's perfect.
Cooperatives plant the seeds of a future economy driven by solidarity, fairness and social emancipation. However, they need support from governments, institutions and the public to thrive. In the north of Ireland, the environment for cooperative development is challenging due to a lack of supportive policies and investments. Despite these hurdles, new cooperatives are emerging in housing, technology, food and more, showing the resilience and potential of the cooperative model.
Cooperatives have economic benefits, but they also have social benefits. They improve trust, confidence through the democratic participation in the running of the activities, challenging social marginalization, unemployment, gender empowerment. You even have cooperatives in countries that are torn apart by conflict, where they very much help within the reconciliation process. So there's a wealth of research that is showing that cooperatives are happier, better, more successful businesses. They operate in all sectors of the economy of every size. You will find very small businesses. You will also find, if you look at Mondragon, a cooperative that's owned and run by 80,000 workers in the Basque Country. You can look at regions in Italy, for example, Emilia-Romagna, where more than 4,000 cooperatives is creating a third of the GDP of the region.
But the reality is that in the north here, the economy is small, and that means it's perfect, I think, for cooperatives, because it fits into the nature of our economy here. Given our sectarian, divide here, I'm not saying it's a panacea, but worker cooperatives do stand as a model whereby you could begin to overcome some of those sectarian divisions, because often with the way the structure of the economy, well, not as bad now as it used to be, our workforce was incredibly sectarianized, And worker cooperatives could be one way of dealing with that, particularly if we start integrating, in interface areas.
We're almost 30 years post-peace process. Societies are still are less divided, but still significantly divided. But from a social and economic point of view, I don't think that the peace dividend has been thought out. So if you're talking about a post-conflict society, you're talking about a society that everybody benefits from. And I don't think that the economic part was something that was built into the architecture of the Good Friday Agreement. So what do we want that to look like? Well, we want it to look like a stable society economically, where working class people also have a share in the wealth.
Interestingly, I think those initiatives that we're looking at, those cooperative initiatives that we're looking at, they very much stand in sharp contrast to what the economic policy here in the North has been over the last, 30 plus years. And it's interesting that by the time Northern Ireland emerged, from the Troubles and, the peace process kind of started in 1998, there was very much a shift already on the global scene in terms of the economic policy. It's interesting how that even affected the way peace building was conceived. So by 1998, for the international community, the peaceful social order was achieved through this capital mobility, through the neoliberal project. And so you see this double transition in Northern Ireland, where you've got a shift to power-sharing institution, but you also have a shift to neoliberal policies, and policies that actually mirror what had happened in Great Britain under Thatcher. And we even knew by 1998, if you look at the peace processes that have occurred in the 1990s, that neoliberal peace building at best obstructs peace, at worst spurs violence. So interestingly here, I think as there's still obviously a lot of divisions, resource competition, especially in the political arena, we see the continuation of paramilitary violence and so on. All of this is increasingly chiming with the reality, with the disillusion even, that peace will not materialize as improved living standard, health and education for many communities, especially working class communities that were predominantly impacted by the conflict. So cooperatives are not just an answer to how do we democratize the economy or how do we organize the economy differently, how do we put ethics back and solidarity back into the social economic relations with one another. But there are also kind of questions on what do we mean by post-conflict society? How do we move away from conflict in a way that favors social justice, sustainability, equity, equality, and so on?
At the beginning of 10 years ago, we were excited at things. And then a lot of things happening in these 10 years. COVID was one, economic crisis, really, and also the absence of a government in Northern Ireland. So those elements have really shaped where the cooperative sector had to go in Northern Ireland in order to flourish. And unfortunately, the cooperative sector had to flourish by relying on its own.
To mirror what social farming has done for the community, why not for the rest of the community? And I think that's an opportunity where the policymakers will need to really take note and look at the evidence now that's being gathered and open it up for, I suppose we're only at the conversation stage for a strategic focus and the policy that could come around it. But there's definitely a lot of benefits there to bring in.
Even though people don't know about cooperatives, government don't know about cooperatives. See, if you go to open a bank account as a cooperative, you're hitting a brick wall because most banks don't want to know you. They don't understand. It confuses them. They don't get this collective ethos that runs right through a cooperative, and they don't get that. So not only is it society and communities and local people don't understand co-ops, government, HMRC, banks, all business things haven't a clue about cooperatives, and this is a massive lack of education and actually put barriers and brick walls up to stop us from becoming cooperatives. If you wanted to start a business tomorrow in Companies House and you can register your business as a company limited by guarantee, it costs you £14, maybe up to £18 now. If you want to start a co-op, it costs you £350. Why make it so much harder for people to start up a real good, ethical, equal business that people are going to help one another? Why make it 10 times, 20 times harder to be able to do the normal things a normal business can do?
I don't know that everyone fully gets the concept. I think people are starting to understand maybe what it more represents, and I think that's an opportunity where the policymakers will need to really take note and look at the evidence now that's being gathered.
The problem is that particularly on this island, the jurisdictions, whether it's the UK or the Republic of Ireland, makes it so difficult. The regulatory, the legal, the finding the capital and the finance and so on.
Also, I have to say, not having a very well-established and recognized cooperative development agency that could be well supported. So you needed to support development bodies if you wanted to support a growing sector, because the problem are not only at the beginning of growth, the problem are also after a few years when the board change, when the membership change, you needed to have somewhere to go with your problem. And also cooperatives themselves, they didn't get any kind of startup cost covered. Everything has been done internally, and that is a bit of an issue.
In 2020, there were 214 cooperatives in the north of Ireland, including 145 credit unions representing nearly 770,000 members, contributing to 1 billion in turnover and providing employment for over 3,000 people. These cooperatives operate in many sectors, from retail, agriculture and renewable energy, to cleaning, creative industries and even craft beer. As we've seen, cooperatives offer a beacon of hope in times of crisis. With state support, cooperatives can thrive, creating more resilient economies and stronger communities. As we face the challenges of our time, from economic inequality to climate change, the cooperative model stands as a powerful testament to what we can achieve when we work together.